Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC, and CBS, and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits, because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press, because you know what?
Mr. President,
a country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we traveled all the way to Wisconsin for this interview.
Donald Trump just walked out of NBC's Meet the Press, and the media completely buried what triggered it. I'm Brandon Mace. This is Political Lens. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you 3 things the mainstream media is not telling you about this Trump NBC interview walkout. Number 1, NBC published their fact-check list on this interview before Trump even finished speaking, and one of the key documents they used against him from 3 months before the Iran strikes. Number 2, the actual military results that Kristen Welker never once mentioned. And number 3, the question NBC was never going to ask, the one tied directly to their parent company. Stay with me, because this one runs deep. Here's the context. On Friday, June 6th, President Donald Trump sat down with NBC News anchor Kristen Welker for a taped interview at Custer Farms in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. The interview aired Sunday on Meet the Press. I want you to notice something right away. This was not a breaking news hit. This was a pre-planned, pre-scheduled, taped interview, which means NBC controlled every single frame you saw. Trump came prepared to discuss the Iran war, gas prices, trade deals, the active policy decisions of a sitting president. Real, current, consequential decisions. But from the first minutes of that interview, the direction NBC steered things tells you everything you need to know about what they came prepared to do. I want you to watch this moment. Check this out.
Then I sent the B-2 bombers in about 9-10 months ago, and they totally obliterated the site, and I saved it. We had a choice. We could let them have a nuclear weapon, or we could go along and have some beautiful days. But they would have, it's a judgment. They would have used the nuclear weapon.
Welker cited Trump's own director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, to challenge the reason Trump ordered B-2 bombers into Iran. And on the surface, I understand why that sounds like a hard hit. Gabbard testified in March 2025 that the U.S. intelligence community had assessed Iran had not made a final decision to build a nuclear weapon. Here's what NBC didn't tell you. That assessment was from March 2025. The Iran strikes happened in June 2025. 3 months later, NBC used a pre-strike intelligence snapshot to fact-check a post-strike command decision. And then they never asked, not once, what changed between March and June that led to the authorization of those B-2 bombers. The reality is, that's the question. That's the only question. And Kristen Welker didn't ask it. Let's break down really what happened here. NBC's approach in this interview was not spontaneous. On the same day this interview aired, the same morning, NBC published a full fact-check article, pre-written, pre-sourced, ready to post. A prepared list covering Iran, January 6th, the California primary, and Trump's foreign policy record. I'm not joking when I say this. When a network publishes their fact-check on your words the same morning you say them, that is not journalism responding to what happened. That is a conclusion that was already written, waiting for the quote. Now look at what NBC fact-checked versus what they chose to leave out. They spent significant time on the March DNI testimony to undermine Trump's nuclear narrative. What they did not spend time on. Pentagon officials confirmed more than 80% of Iran's missile facilities are destroyed. More than 90% of Iran's conventional navy is gone. The Strait of Hormuz, which carries 20% of global oil supply, is accessible for the first time in years. Those are the post-strike results. NBC's fact check found space for a pre-strike assessment. It did not find space for the military outcomes. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because Welker also pressed Trump on his DOJ anti-weaponization fund, the initiative Trump's administration created to review politically motivated prosecutions. NBC called it government overreach. Here's what we need to understand about that fund and why NBC's parent company has a very specific reason to want to keep it framed as overreach right after this. The Anti-Weaponization Fund. Let's talk about what it actually is. Trump's DOJ established an initiative to review federal prosecutions that the administration believes were politically motivated. Three stated functions: reviewing convictions obtained through prosecutorial misconduct, auditing cases where federal charges were filed against political figures between 2022 and 2024 without proper grand jury referrals, and investigating whether certain media companies received preferential regulatory treatment in exchange for favorable coverage of the previous administration. That third function, hold on to that. NBC News is owned by Comcast. Comcast is one of the largest telecommunications and media conglomerates in the United States. Active FCC licensing, active regulatory exposure, active federal contracts. An initiative investigating whether media companies received preferential regulatory treatment is, depending on what it finds, a direct exposure for Comcast's portfolio. Now, I want to be completely clear. I am not stating NBC killed that line of questioning because of corporate exposure. I'm saying they didn't ask Trump to explain what that fund has actually found. And I'm saying that disclosure, even the existence of that potential conflict, was never mentioned to the viewer. The rules of journalism NBC invokes every time they defend press freedom require that disclosure. The conflict of interest goes in the story every time. It wasn't there. And when Trump pushed back on the framing of that fund, when he tried to explain what the initiative actually reviews, Welker pivoted straight back to January 6th, straight back to the 2020 election. Take a look at this.
Okay. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the weaponization fund. I love the idea because people like you, the fake, dirty press, the crooked press, people like stupid Biden, he's not smart enough to know what's going on, but people that surrounded him, surrounded his beautiful, resolute desk in the Oval Office, what they did to the lives of people, they destroyed people. They sent people to jail who did nothing wrong.
All right, just to be very clear, there's no evidence of what you're saying, but
There's
let me
a lot
ask you
of
about
evidence.
Todd Blanche. Let me ask you about Todd Blanche.
Listen to me.
Let's talk
There's
about Todd
tremendous
Blanche.
evidence. There's nothing
Well,
but evidence.
There it is. That is the playbook in real time. Every time this administration raises a current active accountability question, NBC redirects the interview back to 2020, back to January 6th, back to the lanes where they hold the narrative and they hold the definition of fact. Here is the bigger picture, and this is the part every mainstream outlet is completely ignoring in their coverage. Trump walked out of that interview in the middle of an active military operation. The Iran war is ongoing. The Strait of Hormuz situation is ongoing. Gas prices are moving on every single development in that theater. This is a live, real-time national security situation affecting American families at the pump right now. And NBC's pre-planned question list focused on a March 2025 intelligence document, the 2020 election, and January 6th. The American people are watching B-2 bombers level Iranian nuclear facilities. And NBC's Meet the Press showed up to that interview with a folder of 2020 grievances. That is not an accident. That is a strategy. Here's what that strategy looks like in practice. Every time this administration makes a decision that is difficult to attack on its current merits, the Iran strikes have majority public support, the post-strike military results are real, the media pivots to relitigating the first term, because those are the lanes where they control the framing. Those are the lanes where fact means whatever their pre-written fact check says it means. The problem? That playbook is losing its grip. The clip of Trump walking out is not going viral because it makes Trump look unstable. It is going viral because people recognize what they are watching. And here is the question I want to leave you with. If NBC News walked into that Wisconsin farmhouse, actually committed to informing you, if Kristen Welker's job in that room was to give you information you needed, what question about Iran, about the weaponization fund findings, about the Comcast regulatory exposure, would she have asked that she didn't? That silence is the story. That absence is what this video is about. Drop your answer in the comments below. The one question NBC should have asked Trump in that interview and didn't. I want to know what this community comes up with, because I guarantee it is more substantive than anything on NBC's prepared fact check list. And if this video showed you something that didn't make it onto Sunday's broadcast, share it. Not for the algorithm, for the person in your life who still thinks Meet the Press is the neutral version of the story. Give them a chance to see what's being filtered out. I'm Brandon Mace, and I'll see you all in the next video here on Political Lens.